Hello and welcome to the India Hangout. We're asking 3 questions each. What's cool in the new iPhone 6 that's going to be launched in a few hours, and what's not cool? I'm going to be joined by Abhimanyu Radhakrishnan, Ankit Fadia, and Rohan Naravane right here with me. Rohan, let's begin with you. What are you looking out for?
Well, first and foremost, the iPhone 6. It's the phone that people have been asking for.
Okay.
The phone.
And why do you say that?
Because of the bigger screen size.
Okay.
Because a lot of people have always who have shifted to Android in hopes that Apple will finally, hear them.
Yes. Respond.
Respond. So finally, it's happening, and we are very much surprised that it's not just one phone, but apparently another bigger phone. So personally, I'm not really excited about the bigger.
And you recently switched from iPhone to Android. So
yes,
you're a traitor to the cause in that sense.
Well, because primarily from a services point of view, from location services point of view, Apple is not really cutting it for me. That's where Google has stepped up the game with local content. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm sticking to Android for now.
Right. Okay. Abhimanyu, what's your sense? What are you most sort of looking forward to, and what's not exciting you?
Well, Govind, with the caveat that I'm totally an Android fanboy, I've got Andy here as well on my desk because I've sort of not been in the Apple ecosystem almost since the iPhone 3GS. So while I do, keep monitoring what they're coming out with, personally, I'm not a user. So I'll start with the parts where I'm skeptical first. They're talking about the mobile wallet and this whole payments ecosystem. While Apple might have, the largest authenticated bunch of credit cards on the planet, I'm not so sure user behavior will change that rapidly, and it's very hard to include a larger ecosystem of retail stores, third-party device makers in something like shopping. When Apple rolls it out in its own Apple stores, in its proprietary environment, maybe it'll work, but I'm a little skeptical that they'll be able to crack this whole mobile wallet thing because you have to work with lots of partners. And with proprietary technology, many of them may not want to sign up and sort of hand over that monopoly to Apple in that space.
Okay. Abhimanyu, just hold your thought there. I'll come back to you on the mobile wallet specifically in a bit. Ankit Fadia, your key reasons to look forward to, and the reasons maybe you're not really excited about this one.
I'm actually really excited to see what Apple comes up with in terms of not just the phone, but beyond the phone. So I'm hoping to hear an announcement of maybe an iWatch, and I'm very curious to see what kind of battery life they come up with and what kind of functionality they come up with. Hopefully it's going to go beyond just getting notifications of emails and messages that you receive or social media updates. I'm also pretty excited about the earphones that are going to be able to record your blood pressure and your heart rate. I think so what Apple is doing beyond the cell phone is something that is exciting me, but I continue to remain a hardcore Android fan, so I don't think I'm going to stick at this point.
Okay, so you said battery life. Why is that, Ankit? Is battery life something that you feel is Apple at a disadvantage compared to the phones that you're using?
So I was talking about the battery life for the iWatch, for example.
Oh, okay.
So the Android watch that has come out, I think one of the big negatives is the battery life of it. And if you have to keep recharging your watch, it's not going to be very functional. So hopefully the iWatch has high battery life.
Okay. The iPhone's going to also have a lot of new things potentially. I mean, as we hear, health kit, home kit, and all of that, right? So the health factor, you can actually start measuring things around your body. The home kit, which means it would plug into things around your home, appliances, automation, and so on. What do you think of all of that, Rohan?
So yes, and Apple has always been, the kind of company where one product has a.
We are showing pictures of what allegedly is the iPhone 6. I might add there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So Apple has always been a company where one product has a halo effect. So if you buy one Apple product, there is a tendency for you to buy all other products in the ecosystem and be one with the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So home automation is just an extension of that. Health is just another extension of that. That's what I think. So,
but there's no hardware, right? This is really software which is being, or you think there's some hardware.
So this up until now at WWDC they have only announced the SDKs and the APIs for third-party developers. So right now the first hardware that we might probably see might be tonight with the wearable.
Okay. Yeah. And is that something that's going to be fundamentally different from anything that we've seen elsewhere?
That's what it's been said. Now they have been really tight tight-lipped. Now iPhone 6, we have been seeing all the images, all how it's going to look, and even there was somebody who put up a running iPhone 6 video, but we have seen nothing about the watch. They have been really tight-lipped about that. Just how they have been just how they were tight-lipped about the Mac Pro last year, when nobody knew it was coming.
Okay.
So I'm clueless.
Okay, that's a candid confession.
Yes.
Abhi, you said something about mobile wallet. Now, is that? I mean, let me understand this first. What is the one key thing that you're looking out for, or you would like from the iPhone 6 if you were indeed looking out for it? And what relevance or what impact could it have in the way we use a phone?
Actually, I'm a little more interested in seeing how that wearable device comes out, the watch. Frankly, the device itself on the iPhone front, I really don't see much more innovation, even if they do that curved screen that Samsung's already done. They just seem to be playing catch up on the handset side, whether it's the screen size or practically most of the features. Now they're playing catch up. So the device itself, as I said, I don't really see anything very exciting. But what I think they can get right is the wearable device, because right now wearables have this fundamental problem that if you want its battery life to be high, as Ankit mentioned, the size of that battery and the way it charges is going to fundamentally generate heat, and heat plus metal some acrylic on the human body. Every watch I've used so far, a wearable device watch, eventually starts singeing your skin, and especially if you're a little hairy like me and you've got hair on your hands, it really causes a lot of itchiness, and after a while people just stop wearing it. In fact, I think a recent Nike survey said that a lot of people wear their wearables very enthusiastically for fitness for the first maybe 6 weeks, and then it's just lying dumped in some part of the house. So wearables as a category, user behavior hasn't changed, and there's that fundamental reason of that device interacting with your skin, which nobody else seems to have got that hardware right. On that front, I'm kind of optimistic that Apple might do a great job, and maybe they've cracked it, because right now, frankly, even on the Android side, there's no real watch that's comfortable to wear for long periods of time. If you're going to monitor your health, then you definitely want to be wearing it for 12 hours a day. So I'm very interested on that particular health device in terms of how they get the balance of aesthetics and irritability on the skin right.
Yeah. Okay, the other rumors that's been floating around, and perhaps it's going to come into the what's cool part, is the sapphire glass cover. Ankit, is that something that you would look forward to? No scratches, no plastic and whatever over it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading online some blogs which claim that the glass is going to be completely indestructible, which means that even if you drop your phone, it's not going to break. And I can think of many of my friends who have had to, pay a few $100s to get a brand new phone's screen replaced. So I think that would be a pretty useful feature to have. But a scratch-proof surface, I personally don't have too many things in my pocket other than my phone. So personally, for me, it's not something revolutionary. But yeah, I can see that it can be useful to a few people.
What about the size itself? Rohan just touched upon it in the beginning, but if it's that 5.5-inch screen, how does that make it for, particularly when you compare to other Android devices that you are perhaps using right now? Ankit?
I think the size of the screen, it will definitely be a big advantage if they come out with a larger screen, because I'm just so used to using my Samsung S4, which has a much larger screen than an iPhone. So I prefer a larger screen, but the problem with Apple generally is that they'll probably price it so expensive or so high that it will be probably out of reach for most consumers in India. So I'm also very curious to find out, in terms of what date they plan to launch the new iPhone in the US compared to in India, and at what price.
Right, and talking about price, Rohan, let me begin with you. So what's your expectation? A friend of mine was willing to pay 70,000 rupees, and I think that's for, I'm not even sure if it's for 5.5-inch.
Right. So, even if you look at it today,
street price.
The street price. At launch, iPhone 5s, the most highest capacity, the 64 GB option, did touch 70,000.
Right.
The base price was 53,500. I don't see any reason why they will want to price it anything below that, if not above.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but that's I think that's how it's going to play out, because they're finally giving people everything that people have been asking for. So I don't see any reason why they would lower their prices.
So, and what could it go up to? I mean, see, also people typically end up paying premiums in the beginning, right? I mean,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So it's kind of, I mean, the trend has been changing. Apple for many years in India have had the method of charging one price and then keeping it the same till the next model launches. But it's this year that we see that the iPhone 5s, which started at 53,500, is now available as low as 35.
Right.
So you're right. So if you really want an iPhone on day one, then you have to pay a huge premium.
Okay. Abhimanyu, what are you willing to pay? If you were willing to pay?
Clearly, then clearly, अच्छे दिन आ गए हैं. If somebody just said as low as 35,000 in that previous sentence, I think it was Rohan. Because I don't know in a country like India how 35,000 qualifies as low. Yes, maybe compared to the original price of the iPhone, which was so you're saying from obnoxious to slightly less obnoxious in terms of pricing. But we've just seen the likes of Micromax and recently Xiaomi and even the way Motorola did on Flipkart very clearly give us an indication of what the Indian market is willing to pay for stuff like that. So, whenever the iPhone comes out as a new model in India, it's a luxury product. It's not directly targeting even techies or geeks right at the outset. It's a lifestyle statement, so people will pay that premium. There are some people who would be willing to pay 70,000 for it. But I think as happens every time an iPhone launches, my advice is always that wow, the previous iPhone is now officially the best value for money device out there. So maybe the iPhone 4 will finally be competitively priced in India.
Okay. Ankit, we haven't talked about the processing capability and the storage and so on. What's your call there? What would you expect for the kind of price that we're likely to see?
I think iPhone 6 is expected to have around 128 GB in terms of storage space. But again, that will probably be a high-end premium, very expensive model. 128 GB makes a huge difference. I think I personally run out of space on my cell phone and my iPad very often. So I would really appreciate the higher storage space. But again, the question is at what price? In terms of coming back to your earlier question about how much would I be willing to pay for it? See, the issue is that the specifications are going to be pretty much the same between an Android and an iPhone in terms of the latest models. So I think it all boils down to the app economy. Wherever I'm getting better apps and wherever I'm getting a bigger bang for my buck, I'm going to lean towards that. So I think most people who use Android love Android because of the fact that the handset itself is pretty power packed in terms of features, and also the apps are plentiful. And from a price perspective, it's much more much more affordable than a typical iPhone or iOS device.
Right. And what about processor, Ankit?
I think the processor speed is going to be obviously really the high end. I don't know exactly what it will be, but to be very honest, I mean, does it really make such a big difference to the average consumer if by just having the latest processor, it reduces the amount of time it takes to launch an app by a few microseconds? So I don't really see that much of a value to it. So I think once the model comes out, once I actually get to use it, I think that I'll be able to comment more on that at that stage.
Okay.
But for the average person, I don't think it makes such a big difference.
Okay. Couple of questions coming in. So Chirag Jariwala asks or says, I think you should talk about the iPhone's fingerprint scanner feature, because on the iPhone, on the iPhone 5, a few scratches make the fingerprint scanner function useless. I don't know. Do you agree, Rohan?
Well, I actually haven't heard of that, because the iPhone 5s fingerprint scanner is covered by sapphire glass.
Okay.
And in the videos that we've seen, people have tried to scratch that portion of the button using sandpaper, which easily scratched the screen, but it didn't even put a single scratch on the fingerprints, on the covering itself.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's the real issue for the malfunctioning of the fingerprint scanner. Yes, when the iPhone 5s was launched, there were few issues where the fingerprints were not, they wouldn't register correctly. But I think they were more or less resolved, or maybe they were a minority.
Okay.
An issue.
Okay, so here's another question. Someone asks, Ashutosh asks, what's new in the iPhone 6 compared to the Xiaomi Mi3 and Mi4?
All right. So the Xiaomi Mi3 and Mi4, well, they are pretty much, especially the Mi4. It's like there's no denying that it's an iPhone lookalike, right?
Yeah.
Like it looks like the iPhone 5s.
Yeah.
With the chamfered edges and the aluminum build.
Yeah.
But primarily speaking, it's not just, so we've been talking hardware, and Apple, as we know, is not just about the hardware. Software is a very important play here.
Yeah.
You know, the company that makes their own hardware and makes their own software and their own ecosystem. Apple has a lot of things that you know, any other manufacturer will not be able to replicate. Certain experiences, like for example, the continuity feature, where you can take a phone call, you know, that you receive on a phone right away on your Mac, or like you're typing an email, and the moment you reach your Mac, you can just open the Mail app and just continue typing that email there.
Wow. Okay.
Those are experiences that will not be possible with an Android Windows or Android Mac combination. So when you look at it from that perspective, I think iPhone does have a lot to offer.
Okay, that sounds cool. Any other cool things that you're looking forward, Abhimanyu?
Actually, the only thing I think which would actually make me consider looking at that iPhone 6 is if there's that rumor about interchangeable lenses on the phone camera. I mean, it seems to be one of those 50-50 rumors, because Apple traditionally likes the flat back phone, so they may not let the interchangeable component jut out a bit. But there's, you know, a strong wave of rumors online I'm seeing that they may allow for phone lenses to be interchangeable, because the one thing, even as an Android fan, I must say that you just can't beat Apple on is the imaging quality of that iPhone. Even I think an iPhone 4 today, that sensor quality is way superior to anything that even the highest end Android phones have today. So imaging is definitely a plus there. So if they can add the lens interchangeability to it, I don't know, maybe the next boom news will be shot on an iPhone.
Okay, Ankit?
So one thing that I can actually talk about is the fact that, you know, even before the launch, there's just so much excitement around the iPhone that there's this whole iPhone 6 phishing scam that is doing the rounds, where you get an email from sales@apple.com saying that, hey, you get a chance to buy the iPhone 6 before everybody else. So type in your Apple ID and password. So if anybody has gotten such an email, you know, it's actually not Apple who's trying to give you any preview to their phones. It's just a phishing attack that's trying to steal your password.
Okay. So clearly there's build up. People are paying $2,500 to be the first in the line or hold their position in the line outside stores in New York. So obviously people are willing to pay a lot and be part of this premium experience. Is there anything we're missing, Rohan?
Well, I think there is also other product lines that there have been rumors that they might just introduce a newer iPad, the iPad Air second generation, with a Touch ID sensor and apparently a reflection-free glass, like what do you say, glare-free glass.
Right.
So there is that stuff. There is maybe rumors that new Macs might just show up. You know, like I said before, like with Apple rumors, you can never tell because there are so many of them. It's really hard to nitpick and know which is what.
Yeah, but normally I think in this case, of course, there are some things which are still unknown, but there is some convergence of rumors which has now happened, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
so
I think some things people have agreed
so
on.
the screen size, the double screen size, all those things are pretty much golden.
Yeah.
I don't. It's very unlikely that the iPhone models that we've seen so far and the real iPhone is going to be any different than.
What about iOS 8? What's your sense?
iOS 8 has been at WWDC, people were pleasantly surprised because the way they've actually opened it up, they opened up iOS way before,
right?
You know, more than ever before. So, for example, something as trivial as being able to share, say, a link on Safari to somebody on WhatsApp, that was not possible in iOS. Something that was very trivial, something that has been in Android since like 2.3 or 2.1, you know. So that is, those things are being fixed.
Right.
And Apple, as you know, they when they do something, they do it right. So they go that extra mile. So you'll see certain software, you know, nuances that are actually done better. Like they took an idea and they've actually made it better.
Okay, right. So we are sort of running out of time. So I'm going to ask all of you, and I'll come back to you, Rohan, to say that 2 or 3 things that are cool for you and why you might buy this new iPhone, even though I know all you gentlemen are Android bucks. So let me begin with you, Abhimanyu. 3 things that are cool, and maybe the 1 or 2 things that are not so cool, and therefore will make you stay with your or stick with your Android.
Okay, so the three things that I said are cool. I'm going to repeat the first one, which is that if that interchangeable lens camera comes out, it's totally going to be worth the buy, just purely as an imaging device, even if I never actually use the phone. If they manage to get the wearable, the watch right in terms of the battery, saving the hair on my wrist, I would probably again buy it just for that. And I think the third thing I'm going to go for, although it's not necessarily something that lots of people look for. Is this whole mobile wallet phase, because I'm very keen that it works somewhere. I'm not very sure that Apple will be able to do a good job of it, but if they get it right, great, win-win. I'd probably consider moving away from Android for that. But the two things which are not going to be cool are that A, by changing screen size to larger, they're for the first time going to change their form factor to go, they're being led by the market rather than being by the market leaders, and somehow a large iPhone, I don't know, will just make it look ugly in my opinion. And the second thing is that I'm not sure that processor that you talked about earlier, I think they're going to use the A8 is what some rumors are saying. But now you've got so many more gyros, the health sensor, so many more radios, so many more components. The CPU is just about 20% of the system on the chip. There's so many other things that it has to control, and the larger screen size has to drive, more pixels and more graphics. I'm thinking that this might actually be the first sluggish iPhone out there.
Oh, I see. That's a good point. Okay, Rohan. So Abhimanyu says camera, wearability, and the whole thing around wearability, mobile wallet. What he is not so sure about is the fact that, or he doesn't like, is the fact that iPhone is actually being led by the market, going for a big screen, and the processor which may not really deliver.
Right.
So what's your three cool things?
Well, okay, processor should deliver. I'm just going to disagree with you.
Sure, of course.
Because every iPhone has been faster than the previous generation.
Okay.
So there's no qualms about that. My three things that I'm looking really, like I'm jealous of, since I have since I'm in bed with Android now. The three things that I'm totally jealous of is Touch ID. Extremely jealous. It's a really cool way to unlock your phone.
That's already there.
That's already there. And so Touch ID being open to third-party apps, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
Never having to enter a password ever again. Two, continuity. So to be able to seamlessly move from the laptop to the tablet to the phone and back again. That experience I'm never going to be able to get until I completely switch ecosystems. So, and the third thing I think, if you ask me, is just the fact that a bigger iPhone does open up a lot of new avenues for app developers to make their apps or maybe to innovate in terms of the app space. So there would be definitely something very interesting. So for example, the 5.5-inch screen is rumored to have like an iPad like two column layout, and so app developers can use that real estate for instead of Android, where it just basically spreads to a bigger size.
Got it. Okay, so these are your key ones. Okay, great. Ankit?
I'm actually really excited about what Apple comes up with in terms of the wearables devices, in terms of either the iWatch or the headphones that record the blood pressure and heart rate. Secondly, a much improved camera. I believe it's going to be a 13 megapixel camera. And iOS 8 is actually not that bad. I see a lot of improvements have been made in terms of
13 megapixel or 8?
Yes. So
13.
So there has been, they've kept it 8 from the 4S to the 5 to the 5S.
Okay, so this could be the jump.
This could be the jump.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Ankit.
Okay, and so I looked at iOS 8, and iOS 8 seems to have a lot many new features that I think users are going to appreciate. For example, there is parental security feature where essentially parents can monitor any notifications or any messages that the kids are getting, or not having to enter a password based on your location. So if you're at home, to unlock the screen of your iOS 8 device, you won't need to necessarily enter the password. I think these are small improvements that do make me excited about the new iPhone. But one reason why I'm not excited about it is that I still love Android. And it's funny that we are talking about the iPhone 6 on a Google platform like Google Hangout.
Right, that well made, point taken. Gentlemen, we've run out of time. Thank you very much. We of course are going to look out for the iPhone 6, which is launching in a few hours, and we've got some very, very interesting comments and participation from all of you. Thank you very much for that. We are obviously going to come back once we have the instrument in our hands and then do a real comparison between all the phones that you guys own and the iPhone 6. Thanks for watching the India Hangout. We're going to be back.